Good morning. Over the last 6 months or so, it's become clear to me and to many experts and victims who have come to speak to me that Scotland is subject to group-based organised sexual abuse of young girls in Scotland, just as it is in England. Our cultures are very similar, our institutions are very similar, but the problem in Scotland is we do not have any sense of how widespread the problem is. In England, there's been several inquiries. We've had the investigation run by Alexis Jay. We've had another one recently, which did a rapid review, and now we've got the national inquiry. We've had no such scrutiny in Scotland, and so that's why I and Taylor, amongst others, are calling for the Scottish Government to do more and to take this problem take it with the sufficient seriousness that it deserves. The First Minister says that he's open to further investigations of this issue, but I don't see that in practice. He's not told us what would be the threshold and what he would require to announce one, and that's what we would like to see today.
But is an inquiry the only way to get to the root of this issue? I mean, John Swinney says there is a strategic group looking at what further actions are needed. And we've seen in England there have been many inquiries into this. And the problem is not the lack of inquiries necessarily. Often it was the case that the recommendations were just not followed through.
I think, firstly, we do have recommendations that came from Professor Alexis Jay's report, though, and you're absolutely right to acknowledge that those haven't been implemented by either government north or south of the border, although we are making progress in England. But what you do need is independent experts going in, looking at case files, interviewing victims and holding institutions to account. We know there's been systematic failure to help these very vulnerable children and young women at every single level. So you need that independence. The strategic group that the First Minister refers to is run by the Scottish Government. It's around a board table of organisations who work with the Scottish Government. It has met only 3 times this year. It has given no advice, never mind recommendations on what needs to be done. And it doesn't stray away from anything that the Scottish Government would say themselves. So frankly, it's a talking shop which the First Minister is using to hide behind and to deny victims the justice that they deserve.
What happened to Taylor? Has she reported that to the police?
Yeah, she did. I spoke to her last night. At the time, she reported it to the police, and she spoke to the police just a few months ago. The police told her that it was too late to investigate and that there was nothing that they could do at this point, as the officers involved had probably retired. But the police are now back in touch, and she will be meeting with them shortly.
Is that an acceptable response from the police, do you think?
Of course not. Of course not. It's an absolute dereliction of duty. And what we're talking about here are children, quite often in care. We're talking about the most vulnerable kids who have had, more often than not, the most difficult beginnings to their lives, and they're being let down by the institutions that are supposed to protect them and look after them. So no, it wasn't an appropriate response from the police. I hope now they will take her case seriously and do everything that they can to bring the perpetrators to justice. But it was quite a long time ago, so a lot of work is going to have to be done, whereas they could have just taken it seriously in the first instance. But it's just one example. There's another victim has come forward this morning, and that's been reported in the press. But every expert that I speak to, every victim group that I speak to, is clear this is a problem in Scotland, just as it is in England. And really, the First Minister really has to start taking this seriously, and we've not seen that so far.
A lot of these grooming gangs come from certain ethnic groups. Do you believe that we are in Scotland prepared to actually look into some of the cultural factors that may lie behind that?
The problem in Scotland is that we don't have the data, and we don't have any idea of what's going on in the ground, which is why I'm calling for a rapid case review, so that we can understand what's happening. Yes, the Taylor's case, the accused is a group of Pakistani men, but we had prosecutions in Glasgow following a Dundee group who were from Eastern European backgrounds. We've had 2 cases recently where it's white Glaswegians. So we don't know what the makeup of the perpetrators are, but one thing that is really clear is that the common denominator in all of this is predatory men and young, vulnerable girls. And I just hope that if we do look at this in Scotland, that we won't focus, exaggerate and look too closely at race, so that we forget other perpetrators from other ethnic groups. And I hope that there's no political correctness, so that we hide when it is a problem with an ethnic group. We absolutely have to just follow where the victims are telling us to go and where the evidence is taking us. That's more important than anything.
Joani Reid, Labour MP for East Kilbride and Straven, thank you very much indeed.